Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Inside Man United. My name is Rowan Brennan. My very first live, so I'm just trying to get the hang of this. So please bear with me. It's my first time doing a live, so just trying to get my dual screens working here and trying to figure things out a little bit. So if everyone could just bear with me, that would be awesome. So want to get into a little bit of news today that we've got coming out of Old Trafford. Ollie has started to speak out. I think his 2-year silencing barring order has come to an end. So now he's just blah, 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 giving all, not too much salacious gossip, but certainly speaking to his time at United and some of the problems he faced, some of the positives he experienced, the negatives, things like that. So that's been interesting. Richard Arnold, of course, now looking like he had an all hands call with staff at the club to address some of their concerns regarding their handling of Mason Greenwood, Anthony, transfers, maybe what their future holds regarding takeover talk. And then, of course, the results on the pitch and where they are as a club as things stand, and confidence in the manager, transfer strategy, who we brought in. It seems that he was really grilled pretty hard by many members of the club, many staff of the club, should I say. And yeah, it was deemed a no holds barred talk, and he was grilled pretty ruthlessly, it would seem. There's also some squad news for the game against Bayern later on tonight. Of course, a huge opening game for Manchester United against Bayern Munich. A terrible maiden game. I'd much prefer to be playing Galatasaray or Copenhagen, a game where I think we could actually win. It seems to be quite doom and gloom, and all the other channels and pages and Twitter accounts and everything else that I follow, everyone seems to have a pretty unanimous conclusion that we're going to get our asses handed to us. And I am firmly in that camp as well. But listen, it's just football. Let's not get too upset. I'm just glad we're in the goddamn competition, to be honest. And these are nights we should look forward to, regardless of what we think the result is going to be. It is definitely a welcome evening for United to be playing European football. Instead of those Thursday nights, we can look forward to Tuesday and Wednesday games once again. So I am certainly very pleased that we're playing tonight. And listen, the result will be what the result will be. But it's a long campaign. It's a group of two other teams that I think we are more than capable of beating. So whatever happens tonight, I just want us to come through it reasonably unscathed, put some sort of a decent performance in, hopefully not pick up too many other injuries to make life even more difficult than what it already is for Erik ten Hag and this squad. And we'll look at how we think that team is going to line up. So let's get into it. I'm going to do my share screen now. So just give me a chance, and we'll see what we can get together here. Okay, so we're looking at Kane first and foremost. I thought it was very strange that Kane went to Munich. It didn't strike me as a sensible move, and it's now come out that Kane wanted to go to United. And the information that's come out here is quite strange. It says Harry Kane would have waited until next summer to sign for United if the deal was guaranteed to go ahead. This would indicate that the deal was not guaranteed to go ahead. I'm curious to know why and how that would be the case. How would a deal for one of the top 3 strikers in the world, who would be available on a free, who wants to join you and would be the first, properly profiled striker to join the club since Romelu Lukaku. And even with Romelu Lukaku, he was the first proper striker to join since Van Persie. United have just consistently been going for loan moves, half-assed options, players that are past their best. As much as I loved Ibra, he was past his best. Were any top-level teams with designs on winning major trophies going to be recruiting players that were 34, 35 to lead the line for them in the striking department, having played the last 2 years in LA and playing a lot of his career before that in France? Not that that's the worst thing in the world, but listen, I loved Ibra. I thought he brought a great swagger and confidence to the dressing room, to the club. It was kind of I wouldn't dream compare him to Cantona, but I'm making a little comparison to Cantona in terms of the arrogance, the swagger, the attitude. I think he gave a great lift. And listen, to me, it's no coincidence or surprise that our most successful year, silverware-wise, since Fergie's departure, was with Mourinho and Ibrahimovic. You know, those two combined giving a huge amount of confidence and swagger and ability to that United team. I don't see how Kane wouldn't have gotten into the team next year, that he wasn't guaranteed to go. I mean, Kane is said to have set his heart on a move to Old Trafford and would have played out the final year of his contract with Tottenham before leaving on a free transfer, but he was not convinced that United would keep the door open for him. Who failed to convince Harry Kane that we wouldn't take him for free next year? Please explain to me. I think from what I see, it was after United bid 72 million for Højlund that he thought, well, Højlund's going to be the new kid on the block and he's going to start ahead of me. I don't know in what world a 21, 22-year-old kid, even if you spent a lot of money on him, is going to start ahead of Harry Kane. I don't see why we couldn't have had him as a kind of a Julian Alvarez understudy for a year or two behind Kane and then see what happened. It doesn't make any sense to me that United would have not been able to give Harry Kane every guarantee required in the world that he would be able to play for the club as a starter when he would be joining for free. Now, Solskjaer has come out and said, yeah, listen, I wanted Kane, I wanted Haaland, I wanted Declan Rice, I wanted all these players. It's a little bit kind of like Wenger in the Arsenal days. Oh, yes, we were very close to signing that player, but it just didn't quite happen. Oh, the things I could have done if I got the players that I wanted. Listen, you didn't. So, you know, you got to play the cards you're dealt. But I personally don't understand how that guarantee couldn't have been given and how, you know, Harry couldn't have been quite satisfied that United would have given him everything he wanted to join on a free, mate. I just don't understand that news. It didn't make sense to me. He went to Munich. I was shocked he went. Every fiber of my being was convinced that he would either move to United or wait a year and then move to United. It just, everything about that move made sense. So in typical United form, we still managed to fuck up getting a player of his caliber for free in a year's time. And the player wanted to move. I want explanations. I want explanations for that, because this Højlund kid better be banging in 30 goals a season. And you might say that's unfair, and it is unfair, but why would you not bring on Harry Kane if he was available for free and he was going to be in the peak of his career? Even at 31, Harry Kane is still in the peak of his career. A very, very strange one indeed. Also news that United put in a 50 million bid for Evan Ferguson. I'm really happy to see that at least United are looking at him. I would be surprised if Ferguson didn't move at the end of this window. If United have to pay 120 million quid for him, they should pay 120 million quid for him. I know it's easy to say when it's not my money. Hopefully by that stage, Sheikh Jassim and the Qatar group will have come in and bought out the club. Not that I am a big fan of us being state-owned by any stretch of the imagination, but I do want my club to succeed, and I believe that they will be able to succeed under that type of ownership, because they sure shit ain't going to be able to do it under the current crop of vampires that run the club. So I would be very much looking forward to seeing what we can do in the transfer market with Sheikh Jassim in charge. And I hope that we get Evan Ferguson. As an Irishman, I would love to see a marquee signing like that, an Irishman back in the United fold. I don't think we've had an Irish. I mean, the last Irishmen I remember is Liam Miller, Darren Gibson, and John O'Shea. So I'd love to see some United, some Irish representation at Manchester United. I think it would be absolutely fantastic. So I would imagine that United will be going back in for Evan Ferguson in the summer with whatever bid is required. The Brighton Harrods sale will continue on, and they'll keep getting their £100 million for players every summer. They're absolutely killing it in the transfer market. I don't know what their scouting system is, but they're making an absolute shed load of money from their squad. So long may it continue. They absolutely deserve it. It's one of the best run clubs in the world, bar none. So let's see what happens there. But I'd love to see Evan Ferguson joining up with United. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer asked about a range of different things while at United. And he's kind of been speaking about the Ronaldo signing, that in the end, it probably wasn't a good signing for the club. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say that now, given everything that happened. I remember, God, when I remember where I was when the news was released that I remember like that he was going to be going to City, and my heart absolutely sank. And I thought there was every chance he'd move to City because he has more love for himself than he does for Manchester United, which obviously we've seen, but I think everyone knew that beforehand. And the chance for him to win silverware and to win big medals was obviously going to be better at City than it was at United. He could have had a chance at another Ballon d'Or, certainly for another league title, maybe a Champions League. Some more cups, who knows? I think it's pretty clear that was the case. But he ended up going to United. I was very, very giddy when that happened. I was running up and down the living room. I was living in the west of Ireland at the time. It was during COVID. And I was screaming, running around the house like a teenager. I was absolutely thrilled that he was joining. I remember putting about €100 worth of bets on United are going to win the league, United are going to win the Champions League, United are going to win the treble. He's going to be the top scorer in the Champions League. He's going to be the top scorer in the Premier League. I was just ding, 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 ding. Throwing all the money on all the bets because of Ronaldo. But of course, it didn't quite work out that way. But I don't care. I was still very, very excited at the time. And I remember it fondly. I mean, I'm even smiling now remembering it. But yeah, it didn't obviously go according to plan. Now, Ollie has come out and he's made a lot of comments recently about his time at the club and how it ended, things that happened during his tenure there. So yeah, he goes like, when you have a group, you need everyone to pull in the same direction. When things didn't go right, you could see certain players and egos come out. We beat Tottenham convincingly 3-0 away. Then we lost 2 games. Heads dropped, egos come out. I mean, who those players were, God only knows. I don't know who those players could have been. I know Marcus Rojo used to go mad that he wasn't getting enough game time. Sancho obviously didn't get as much game time under Oli as he may have thought in the beginning. He did at the start. He was injured. Then he tried to get back in the team. Maybe that attitude came out again that we've heard so much about. Who knows who these other players are? I want these players outed, to be honest, because I want them gotten the fuck rid of, because every manager seems to have the same complaint. The club is toxic. There's players there that shouldn't be there. There's players with bad attitudes, players not training well. And then he goes on to say that he wanted to buy Erling Haaland before he made his Salzburg debut, wanted Declan Rice when he wouldn't have cost as much as he did. They did discuss Moises Caicedo, but they wanted players ready for the team there and then. I mean, this is Moises Caicedo was only going to cost £4.5 million, but you wanted players ready for the team there and then. So you didn't get Declan Rice, you didn't get Moises Caicedo for £4.5 million, but you bought Dan James for £18 million. He was not going to be a natural starter. You just said you bought Wan-Bissaka for £50 million, who wasn't going to be a natural starter. Jadon Sancho, young lads that could come in and play their way into the team. So you spent £125 million on Sancho and Bissaka, but you wouldn't spend £4.5 million on Moises Caicedo in a position you sorely needed. That makes zero sense to me. I don't understand that at all. They wanted Bellingham badly, but he wanted to go to Dortmund, and he respects that decision, obviously. Would have signed Harry Kane. I mean, I wanted Haaland, Caicedo, Declan Rice, Jude Bellingham, and Harry Kane. Hardly, groundbreaking admissions there. Yeah, everyone wants those players. You didn't get any of them. So whether that's a sign of our transfer team, or whether it is a sign of where United are as a club, I don't know. But it's, a sad state of affairs that we couldn't get any of those players. So yeah, interesting stuff coming out from Solskjaer today, illuminating on player power. Some weren't as good as their perceptions of themselves. I won't name names, but I was very disappointed when a couple turned down the chance to be captain. Who the hell turned down the chance to be captain of Manchester United? I want to know who was asked. And what really boils my piss about this one is you asked players who didn't have the mentality to want to say yes. If you're the type of player that doesn't immediately jump at the opportunity to captain the club, why were you asked in the first place? Would you have not known this about the player if they said no? I mean, if you ask one, you might get a shock and go like, "Oh, all right." But to ask two, and they both went, "Yeah, nah, you're all right." Would you like to captain one of the biggest football clubs in the world? Nah, you're okay. Not once, but twice that happened. That is mind blowing to me. I just can't get over. I was also disappointed when others said they wouldn't play or train because they wanted to force their way out. Now, I don't know whether that's Pogba. I don't know whether that's Rojo, whether it's God knows who, whether it was Sancho. What I don't understand, like it goes, some players felt they should have played more and weren't constructive to the environment. That's a huge sin for me. When I didn't start games, I wanted to prove to the manager he made the wrong decision. Now, a lot of players aren't like that. Agents and family members get into their heads and tell them that they're better than they are because they have a vested interest. It's a disease of modern football. So that's huge information coming out from Solskjaer in relation to the club. I mean, I'm dying to know who the players are that refused the captaincy. I mean, listen, if you don't have the balls to take it on, good. At least you. I prefer you to say no than take it on and feel that you weren't capable. But those players shouldn't have been asked in the first place. You should know whether a player has the mentality, the gumption, the attitude, the balls, the shoulders, the back, the neck, whatever you want to call it, to take on that responsibility. So when you're asking someone, it should almost be a guaranteed yes, because they're the right profile of player and you know that they're the right people to lead the team. If they say, no, I don't want the captaincy, that's your fault for asking them because clearly they don't have it. So I don't know what happens there. That's a bit of a strange one. That's it. That's it for the Solskjaer stuff. I'm sure more stuff is going to come out. I'm sure he's going to write a book. Solskjaer recently getting a job with UEFA, turning down managerial jobs in Saudi to work with UEFA. So good on him. Hope he does well. Hope he flies it. Love Ollie. Wish he'd got a trophy. He was one penalty away from doing it. I think his time would have been remembered a lot differently. United had things gone slightly differently in a couple of finals that we were in. I think he deserved it. I think his time at United should be remembered a lot better than it was. He gave us some great nights, some great unbeaten runs away from home. We got lucky on a few occasions, of course. What manager doesn't? Do I think he was a little bit out of his depth? Potentially. But to be honest, I think that squad is absolutely fucked. I think there's poison in that squad. I really do. There's a lot of player power, and I think Pep Guardiola would struggle with this team. I genuinely do. But we're never going to know that, are we? Next up, one big problem that Solskjaer revealed at the club. Doesn't want to name any names. He says the club he found in November 2021 was different to September 2021. Sorry, I knew I said I was going to move on from this, but I forgot I had this. I told him when I gave my opinion on every player, things had soured, the collective had been lost. So he's admitting he lost the dressing room. He lost the collective identity of the team, that they were a broken, split, divided team. So then that's what Ranić inherited, which explains a lot. What I find amazing is that when players go, oh, I'm not going to play or train because they want to force their way out. Okay, so you're in breach of your contract. You're not getting paid. Get it on record that the player has said, I don't want to play or train. Okay, you don't want to play or train? You want to break your contract? Great. Okay, cool. No worries. you're going to be an asshole anyway, I prefer to be an asshole that's not getting paid. So they should be in breach of their contract. So keep the 100 grand, 200 grand, 300 grand, whatever the hell these prima donnas are being paid. And, tough shit. Okay, great. Sit in the sidelines. Don't train. We're not going to pay you. If you're going to be a dickhead anyway, we're not going to miss you. So, see you later. It should be kind of construed that way in their contracts when they sign it, that, if you're going to cause problems, if you're not going to train or play, you're going to get fined. And you're going to continue to be fined until you pull your finger out of your ass. That's the only reason I think Sancho unpinned his tweet from his Twitter account. Was, I'd say he was told, right, you're in breach of conduct. You're basically calling the manager a liar every minute of every day while that post is pinned. So you're going to be fined a week's wages, and you'll continue to be fined a week's wages as long as that post stays up. He hasn't received an apology. He hasn't given an apology, which has been asked of him. He's obviously fallen out with Ten Hag. He's been made train on his own. So he clearly still agrees with the comment and did leave it up for a while. So I'd say he was told, listen, you're going to be fined. And then he took it down because money talks. That's what these guys care about, not pride, not a sense of duty, not about the club or the badge, not about their own self-worth or, a sense of duty to their teammates as a collective, but money, which is a shocker, isn't it? So yeah, that's where we're at. So yeah, Ollie's saying that the group that Ranić got was basically broken. And I think some of those players are probably still there. And that's the thing that Ten Hag has to deal with at the moment, is he's got players there that don't want to be there. It's like living with your ex. You're still in the house. You're not together. There's no chance of getting back together. But you're living with each other. It makes for a toxic environment. Anyone else that happens to be living in that house for whatever reason isn't going to be enjoying it either. I only make that comparison because you've got a squad of people. You've got other players who can be affected by this. So when you've got the likes of Maguire and McTominay and Van de Beek and Sancho, you're not wanted any longer. And you're still there every day in training, talking shit. You're in the WhatsApp groups. Oh, did you see your man again today? This happens. You think these are professional footballers? These are overpaid children, a lot of them. And they're going to, knowing that there's nothing there in that club for them. Well, I'm not going to play unless there's absolutely no other option. I'm still getting paid. So, fuck them. And, I'm going to go out with a bang. You don't like me? Well, I don't like you. You've no faith in me? Well, I've no faith in you. And I'm going to make sure that this is as difficult as possible. And I'm going to punish you for making me look inadequate. That's what these guys will do. And they've got their own little WhatsApp groups and cliques and stuff like that. And I just hope, I genuinely just want, we've already gotten rid of a lot of players during Ollie's tenure and during now Ten Hag's tenure, and I want that to continue. I want there to be, just players fired out left, right, and center. You're gone. I wouldn't care. Certain players need to go, then go. Sancho, see you later. Harry Maguire, he's going to be gone. Club captain. David De Gea, you're gone. And we'll see what happens. Maybe De Gea was one of those players, when Henderson was going to be coming in. Maybe De Gea was one of those players that was causing problems. It's hard to put your finger on it. Okay, let's go back into this. So Ten Hag saying he's never been able to pick his best Manchester United side. It's interesting here. What we see here is who does get to pick their strongest side? I mean, injuries are so common now. And but to be honest, the Sixers missing. Now, I don't know if you can have 12 first team players when a first team is 11. So I don't know how that quite works, but at least 12 players that would be either in the starting 11 or on the bench. And there is quite a lot of rotation. So I think maybe it is fair to say 12 players. Varane, Shaw, Malacia, Amrabat, Mount, they're on the injured list. And some of them are back in training, but they're training alone. A lot of other channels that I watch had made predictions that maybe, Amrabat could come in. Varane might start in the center defense. They're not. They didn't even travel. They're nowhere near playing for the first team again. I don't want to bring Varane back into these 100% because if you bring back a 90% Varane, the chances are he's going to get injured within 45 minutes. So I would wrap him up in cotton wool. I think it's abundantly clear that Ten Hag is going to remove Varane from first team duties once he gets a more reliable centre half to come in there, which is why I think Jean-Claire Todibo and Benjamin Pavard were so desperately sought after that. I think Varane can't be relied upon. You can't go into a season relying on Varane to be one of your starting centre backs when you just don't know when he's going to be fit, and when he is injured, you don't know how long he's going to be out for. It's kind of unacceptable. It's not his fault. I'm not saying it's Varane's fault. He doesn't want to be injured, but when you're a manager of a team that's looking to perform week in and week out, you need your centre halves, the same centre halves starting 80 to 90% of your games. And he's just not able to do it. And it looks like he never will be. So hopefully we'll get a 40 million quid or 50 million quid lump sum from some Saudi team to bring Varane there for a couple of years. Sancho and Antony obviously are out. Wan-Bissaka is now gone. Someone who I thought was kind of immune to being injured, but he's out as well. And yeah, Ten Hag saying, I don't think I've ever started with, in my opinion, the best starting 11. There was always injuries, and that's continued, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. So yeah, a true statement there from Ten Hag, but get on with it, man. So yeah, the diamond midfield against Bayern tonight. It's hard to call what McTominay didn't have a good game against Brighton, but nor did Casemiro. So to just kind of pick out McTominay and say he shouldn't play because he played awful. Most players played awful against Brighton outside of the opening 20 minutes. I would start McTominay because I don't think Eriksen has the defensive steel or the fitness to be dealing with Bayern Munich's team. Bayern Munich will play a 4-2-3-1. They've got a two-man midfield pivot, and I don't think United are going to be pressing so much that United are going to have to play very defensively. They're not going to be putting a huge amount of pressure on Bayern's backline. They can't and shouldn't. We need to go in this with an element of humility and intelligence and tactical humility, which is this Bayern team could absolutely slaughter us. Now, Leverkusen did well during the weekend. Xabi Alonso's Leverkusen, it was a bit of a midfield battle. Eriksen, I don't think, will have the steel or the fitness or the defensively minded mentality. Will have the defensive kind of nous to help out Casemiro. I think we need McTominay. We need someone in there that can run all day, that's going to cause problems, run people down, stay back and shield the defense, and stay there with Casemiro. I want to see a bank of six, and then our forward players just sitting on the halfway line, just waiting for a breakaway, hoping to exploit the space in between Bayern's midfield and defense, or Bayern's defense and their keeper. Hopefully get a couple of, 3-on-2 or 2-on-1, 3-on-3 even. Try and get an overload, try and cause some overlaps, just get a breakaway. And this is what Solskjaer did so well with a depleted team, with a Fred McTominay midfield and a severely weakened team against peak City and peak Liverpool. We got wins because we knew that we were going to be on the back foot. We're not going to have the ball. We're not going to be in possession a lot. We're not going to be on the front foot. We're not going to be putting them under pressure. We have to soak up the pressure, be resolute, be there together, defend correctly, and then take our chances when we get them and then hit them on the counter and on the breakaway. That's exactly what we're going to have to do with Bayern. So the predicted 11 here from the Evening Standard, I've seen all sorts of mad predicted 11s. For Casemiro, Eriksen, and McTominay, and then Fernandez on the right. I just I don't want to see that. I want to see Fernandez in the middle. He does his best work in the middle. He scored some goals and got some assists on the right. People might be surprised to read that. I think playing on the right, Fernandez has scored 4 goals and 3 assists for United in like 8 or 9 games that he's played on the right. So it's not bad what he's done there. But he's better off in the middle. And I want to see Garnacho play. There is talk that Garnacho is going to start. So a Casemiro, Eriksen, McTominay. It's not the worst midfield in the world because Eriksen can play a little bit more advanced. McTominay and Casemiro are going to be doing all the donkey work and carrying the water in that team. So, I mean, do you want to see Eriksen, Fernandez, or Fernandez and Garnacho? I personally would like to see Garnacho. I'd like to see him get a start in Germany, give the guy some confidence, put him on the right-hand side. There's talk that Garnacho is going to start on the left and Rashford's going to be put on the right. I don't want to see that. Rashford plays his best football on the left. Garnacho is a right-footed player. He also likes to cut in as well on his right foot, much like Rashford. But Rashford's going to be starting there most games. So if you want to get Garnacho minutes, he's going to have to play on the right or get 20 minutes every now and again, or when Rashford plays up top because Højlund might be injured. I want to see Garnacho get as many minutes as possible, and that's coming in off the right. Well, great. Pellistri's a right-footed player as well. So whatever tactics you were going to play with Pellistri out there, just do it with Garnacho. Fernandez, what's he going to be doing on the right-hand side? I want to see more energy on that right-hand side. I want to see speed from Garnacho. I want to see him stretch that Bayern defense wide. I think Fernandez is going to come into the middle, and that's just going to compress Bayern's defense. I want to see Garnacho out there, hugging the touchline, staying out wide as much as he can, maybe getting overlaps with Dalot, which is more likely to happen when your right winger is playing with his right foot. You're going to have overlaps. It's just the way it happens. And you can still have 2-on-1s and have some overlaps when you're cutting in and the fullback can go out wide. But listen, I want to see Garnacho start out right. So for me, it should be Højlund up top, Rashford on the left, Garnacho on the right, Bruno as the number 10, McTominay and Cass in the holding midfield position. That's what I want to see. Basically, Eriksen, Casemiro. It's a 4-2-3-1. You say 4-3-3, but it's a 4-2-3-1. Casemiro and McTominay in the double pivot. Bruno, Rashford, Garnacho as that bank of three. And then you can have Højlund up top. And the thing is, Rashford and Garnacho can alternate sides and drag players out of position. If they're going to be man-marked, that can cause problems for Bayern as well. I just want to see Garnacho on that pitch doing his thing. But I can understand why Bruno might start out right with Eriksen there. They're the more experienced, more, historically creative players. But I just want to see a little bit of a youthful exuberance and tenacity in there from Garnacho. And then if we need something towards the end, when Bayern's players are a little bit more tired, then we bring in Eriksen for the final half an hour, 20 minutes to unlock some magic if that's something that we need. That's what I would personally like to see. So we'll see how that pans out. They're saying here on Man United News that Garnacho starts, but they are saying that he's going to start on the left in a 4-2-3-1, exactly what I think the lineup will be. Listen, people shouldn't be worried about tonight's game. This is what we've always wanted. This is the games we've wanted. Instead of playing Apoel Nicosia in the in the Europa League, or playing Young Boys or Midtjylland or Bayer Leverkusen and mid-table teams. We want to be playing these games. So even if we get stuffed, at least we're there. As morbid as that is. So Maguire's gone. He's not going to be playing. So Ten Hag went with a diamond against Brighton. There is no chance in hell we're going with a diamond again with two up top. We don't have the personnel for it. I like the idea of Rashford and Højlund playing up top and, kind of, alternating positions. And I like 4-4-2. I think it's a great formation. I think it has a lot of pluses for it. It was very out of fashion for a long time. They're saying Fernandez will have more defensive duties, with Scott McTominay likely to drop to the bench for another attacker tonight. Okay, so you're going to drop McTominay, a defensive player, so Fernandez and another attacker can play, and then Fernandez will have more defensive duties. So you're going to drop your more defensive player in McTominay to make Fernandez, who's an attacker, be more defensive, to then bring in Eriksen. I mean, what? Just bring in McTominay and let Bruno do what he does, and let McTominay does what he does. I mean, I don't know. So this is their team. Garnacho out in the left, Rashford on the right. I could not. This team is exactly what I hope doesn't happen. I want Eriksen gone. I want McTominay in. I want Garnacho on the right, and I want Rashford on the left. That's what I want. Whether that will happen is another thing. Finally, we've got United's CEO Richard Arnold had an all hands call. So had a meeting with various staff members of the club to address major concerns that people have, and I would have major concerns if I worked for this club at the moment. It's an absolute circus. It's bananas what's going on there at the moment. So addressing concerns regarding the Mason Greenwood and Anthony sagas, how that was dealt with. And so we see here United CEO Richard Arnold fielded a number of tough questions from unhappy staff over a number of issues that have damaged the Red Devils' reputation in recent weeks. Telegraph journalist Mike McGrath reports that Arnold moved to reassure United's employees that all is well. So doing what CEOs do. Everybody calm down. There is no fire happening, as his pant legs are catching on fire. So the respective situations of Greenwood and Anthony dominated the meeting, obviously. So United provisionally planned to bring Greenwood back, but however, they did a U-turn. We've done this to death. All right. So United Chief Executive Richard Arnold held an extraordinary meeting on Monday to address staff unhappiness over a variety of issues, including Greenwood and Anthony. Anonymous questions were put in, and the meeting was described as no holds barred, with a tough line of questioning and reflecting the morale and anxiety around Manchester United, with all the things that have engulfed the club and on the field issues, off the field issues. I mean, let's face it, the club is in an absolute fucking mess at the moment. It's a shitstorm. And to be honest, okay, this is just the culmination of years of mismanagement, years of poor recruitment, years of allowing poor attitudes and a bad standard to fester within the club. A lot of people go, how is this the CEO's fault? They just sit in their boardroom signing checks. Leadership comes from the top down, and it disseminates through the club. It filters through via osmosis. The attitude of your leader seeps into the troops. It just does. That's why players need managers. That's why clubs need sporting directors. That's why clubs need good CEOs. It's not a case of, well, it doesn't matter who's in there. It does matter, not just for financial reasons, but it sets a tone. That's why Gill and Ferguson were just so dominant. You're the best manager in the world, but one of the best CEOs in the world. And together they were unstoppable and did incredible things. And they kept this ship running under Glazer's mismanagement. Sure, what happened as soon as the Glazers came in? We had stockpiles of money. We were the biggest club in the world. We'd stockpiles of money. And then suddenly we had no money because the Glazers used our money to buy the club. That's like me going in to Walmart, buying Walmart, and saying the money that Walmart makes will pay off the deal I've made. So I don't spend a penny, and Walmart can pay for my ownership with its own money. That's exactly what happened. So United went from being the most financially dominant club in the world to Ferguson having to just work absolute miracles to try and bring in the right players to try and keep the club successful. It was a fucking joke. We went from being remember those years when Ferguson just wasn't able to buy anyone, and we were just getting loan deals and bringing these guys in and looking for cheap options, Obertan, and even Van Persie. We had to bring. We got lucky with him. We brought in one of the world's best strikers for 20 million quid because he was going to approach the end of his contract. But United were scrambling around for cheaper deals. We weren't paying the high end for these kind of players. And then as soon as those guys are gone to work miracles, the club falls to shit because the ownership has not fostered a winning mentality. Put it this way, if Richard Arnold was posed this question: which option do you think he would go for? Going to the Glazers at the end of the season and saying, we're £100 million in profit. Or going to the Glazers at the end of the season and saying, we're £20 million in profit, but we won the Premiership and the FA Cup. What do you think the Glazers would prefer? The extra 80 million quid in the bank or a Premier League and an FA Cup? I think you know the answer to that question. They would pick the money every single time. And that's why the club is fucked. We don't have a winning mentality. We don't have an ethos of winning at all costs, doing what is right by the club to make sure that we can win. It's about profit. So they just suck money out of the club and they don't really give a shit what happens on the pitch as long as we maybe make top four. When we don't make top four, that's when they're like, oh, Christ, we better do something. But it's just trying to keep the club at a level where the fans don't destroy the place and we make a lot of money and we keep ourselves relevant. And that's it. I mean, even some of the transfers that were apparently being brought in was based on, oh, they've got this many social media followers. This will be great on the social media stream. I mean, the whole thing just has gone to shit. And the sooner those owners are gone, the better. So this meeting, I mean, Richard Arnold, I don't envy the guy, to be honest. Fielding questions about poor recruitment. He's also told staff that a poor start to the Premier League campaign, he's confident that results will improve and that the summer signings will come good and that they've every faith in Eric Ten Hag as a manager. Now, I hope people keep faith in Eric Ten Hag as the manager, because we can't just keep jumping from manager to manager to manager. It's not working. The reason why the club is in the shitter is because of the owners. I don't think Guardiola could do a huge amount with this club in the way it is, with the types of players that we have and the types of owners that we have. I just don't think he could. I don't think anyone can. You might as well just tie people's hands behind their back and throw them in the swimming pool and tell them to swim lengths. It's just not going to happen. So as long as these guys own the club will never be successful. It is the darkest period I can ever remember in all my time supporting this club. And Eric Ten Hag is facing the shittest bunch of circumstances I have ever seen any manager face in the history of my supporting this club. It is just one thing after another: injuries, scandals, poor behavior, bad ownership, takeover talk, bad results on the pitch, all culminating at the same time. It's an absolute shit show. So I think Eric Ten Hag should be back for 5 years, the way Arsenal did with Arteta. Remember Arteta? Everyone wanted him gone. Every Arsenal fan and their mother wanted Arteta gone 2 years ago. Everyone was pointing and laughing at Arsenal. Look at what Arteta's doing to your club, your golden boy. Look at him. Oh, yeah, I hope Arteta stays. 4 more years for Arteta. Well, they've backed him and he's finally come good. And I'm like, as much as I grew up with the Arsenal rivalry, I don't like Arsenal. I haven't liked them for a long time. I just still remember the Martin Keown days. I can't stand that guy. But I respect Arsenal as a club. I do. They're well run. They don't spend beyond their means. They've backed their manager. They've recruited well. They were very underperforming for 2 decades. They were severely underperforming, hamstrung by their stadium and, letting go of a manager in the same way that, Ferguson with United, and we've gone through our own problems, post epic legendary manager leaving the club. But Arsenal have come through the other side. Disappointing season for them last season in terms of not winning the league. But you look at Arsenal now and they're a very strong outfit. They're a well-run club, and I like Michael Arteta. I think he's a very, very strong manager. United need to back Ten Hag for the next 4 or 5 years. Even if United finish 12th this season, keep Ten Hag. Get rid of the shit and give him another go. Ferguson's first few years at United were all over the place. Finished 7th and 12th and 11th, 13th, then 4th. He was all over the place. And he was there for years before he got it right and tried to instill a culture. And then look what happened. Oh, there's no time or patience in football. You have to get it right now. No, you don't. You have to make sure that you build a club that can make sustainable marches towards success every year. And you don't do that by continually jumping the gun all the time. It just doesn't work like that. Chelsea, they went through their own periods of finishing 6th, 7th outside the top 4, and then they'd miraculously win a European trophy to get them back in the Champions League. They've had some success with just firing managers and hiring people over and over again. But look at them now. They're in the shit again. I think that club is in big trouble. But anyway, Ten Hag needs to be backed. The fans need to back him. There is an extraordinary amount of stuff on Solskjaer on Twitter today, kind of lamenting how he wasn't given a fair crack. And it's amazing how biased people can be when they look back on old players and old managers. It's just, listen, I loved Ollie. I wish him all the best, and I enjoyed many parts of his tenure at United. And I think he was desperately unlucky not to win a trophy, and think he deserved to win a trophy. He got a second, he got his third. He was one David De Gea penalty away from winning a Champions League or Europa League, and he was unlucky in a couple of the cups. I think he deserves some shiny pots to his name. I think he was very unlucky not to come away from his managerial tenure with some silverware to show that he had been a success at United. I truly do think he deserved that. But he wasn't going to be the guy to help us take on Klopp and Guardiola. Just isn't. I think Ten Hag is that guy. I think he's got some tactical nous. He's got a winning history as a manager, and I think he's just got that extra layer that Solskjaer didn't, and I believe he deserves some more time. So I hope he gets that time. I truly, truly do. So Richard Arnold moving to try and put out some fires internally and to try and keep the staff calm. It's just never ending at this club. It's absolutely crazy. But yeah, listen, it keeps rolling on. Big match on tonight for United. I hope it goes better than what I expected to go like. I do think United are probably going to lose, maybe 2 or 3-0, but I think there's a potential for a smash and grab, a 1-0, a 1-0. I think Lindelof and Martinez need to absolutely be on form. I think Reguilon and Dalot, I think they need to be very mindful of their defensive duties and not try and bomb forward too much. And I think we should be playing for a 0-0 draw or try and keep this to a low-scoring loss, because I don't think we're in any position to expect ourselves to be able to go over to the Allianz Arena and take anything from this game with the amount of injuries, the form that we have, and the bullshit that's surrounding the club. But listen, stranger things have happened. We lost the first 2 games of last season, went on to beat Liverpool. Okay, during dark times under Solskjaer's reign, we go ahead and beat some of the biggest and best in the world and surprise everyone, and then the good times are back. It doesn't take much to turn a fan base around. It doesn't take much to get people back on side. So let's go into tonight's game with a bit of positivity. Listen, we're back in the Champions League. Happy days. Okay, this is what we want. We're playing Bayern Munich. This is a good thing. Okay, so everybody just relax, calm down, enjoy the match, and let's see how pissed off we are after 90 minutes, and we'll take it from there. Listen, thanks very much for joining me, okay? Thanks a million for tuning in. As always, hit like, hit subscribe, hit the Inside Man United channel there. Look for some of my videos on tonight's game. I've done a preview on the match, lineups, what I think the score will be, some injury news, some tactical analysis on how I think Bayern will play and how United should play as well. So go and check those videos out. Thanks again for joining me. It's my first live. I hope I didn't make shit of it. But thanks again. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.